So when we try to take some measurements of this experiment, what I could do would be, well, the first value that I need to be measuring would be the mass. So I need to find the mass of the ball in kilogram. Okay? So whether you're using a basketball, tennis ball, or table tennis ball, measuring the value first. Okay? Then the second value I would like to measure would be the initial height because it is easier to measure. Say, yep, the initial height, okay, in meters. So as the ball rolls down, the height would, well, as the ball rolls down, the height would decrease. It's very hard to measure, but the important thing is the energy is lost during the impact there. Okay, so so I think it's crucial to measure the velocity before the impact, maybe in meters per second, because we need this value to find the total kinetic energy we have there. Okay, then we need to write down the other value we need to write down will be VA. Okay, the important values, the velocity after the collision, and the final height. In meters. Okay. Um, yes, I think that's pretty it. Okay. So basically, those are the values we need to take a measure. Now, let's go on how to measure it. Okay. So, yep. In order to measure mass, it will be easier. Just use a scale. You're able to measure the mass. Okay. So the initial height is easier to measure. It can be done by just using a ruler. Now, what I want to talk about will be how to find the final height. So if I have a ball here, drops from 1 meters, impact with the ground and goes up, how do I measure this final height? Okay. The reason, the best idea I came up with would be using a high-speed camera. Okay, so let me show you how does a high-speed camera works. So what I have is I found this video clip from YouTube. Now, yep, just watch it now. Okay, what's happening is they're using a camera and they put a ruler on the screen. So by recording the time using a camera and the distance, they're able to analyze the motion. So let's have a look at it again. Yep, something like this. Okay, so what I think you could do to measure the final height will be the same, but we don't use a high-speed camera. Now, what I think would be good would be if you have on the ground, what you can do is you can have a meter ruler lined up there. Okay, so 1 meter, a meter ruler. Okay, then what you can do is you can use um, radio, your phones, okay, or simple digital camera to record a video. So what's happening is as you drop down the ball bounces back. You can use a video to record this process. Then in the video file, you can you can use slow motion, try to figure out the maximum height. Well, depends on how you measure. Okay, so if you drop the ball 1 meter above the ground, and you measure 1 meter from the bottom of the ball, so when it bounces up, you need to measure the distance from the bottom there. Okay, so yep. So yep, use your slow motion, okay, to find out a point that the ball achieved its highest height, and you can read it directly from the meter ruler. Okay, so in this case, you don't need a high-speed camera. Just use a normal phone camera. This is achievable. Okay, so yep, this issue solved. Now, the difficult thing is to measure the velocity just before the ball contacts the ground, before the impact, and the velocity right after the impact. Okay. This is really hard to do because depends on the quality of your phone. Sometimes it's very hard to measure it. Okay. Yeah, say if the frame of the videos made by your phone is really low, okay, then it's really hard to measure the speed. Okay, so what I came up with, so in this case, okay, in year 11, okay, now you can use calculations. Okay, what I can do is you can use calculations to calculate these two answers here. Okay, you can use calculations. Okay. But remember, you need to talk about the errors you made, because when we use calculations, we assume there is no friction. Actually, there is. Okay. So the value, the velocity you calculated will be lower, will be higher than expected. Okay. For instance, if I want to calculate the velocity right before the impact, okay, what I can do is I have the initial velocity at 0 meters per second, okay, which dropped from 1 meter high. Okay. I need to find the final velocity, which is unknown. The displacement is 1 meter, and the gravity is minus 9.8 meters per second. Sorry, 9. Well, if I use minus 9.8, displacement will be 1 meter. So, yeah, I write down like this. Okay, because it drops down 1 meter, then use a constant acceleration. That's for before the impact. So after the impact, what we have is we need to find the velocity right after the impact. And right after the impact, it bounces up to there. Let's assume. Okay. So what's happened is we need to find this. The final velocity will be 0 meters per second. Okay. Acceleration will be minus 9.8 meters per second. And we need how much it bounces up. Okay. We need this value there, okay, which can be measured from using your camera. Okay, here. Okay. Then you have all the values to do all the calculations there. Okay, so yep. So the trick in here is try to use your cameras to measure the height, and then let's go through the templates now.